Hello, this is Mario Serafero, editor-in-chief at XDA Flashaholic in recovery, and I'd like to welcome you to the XDA podcast number 6. Our goal is to cover the latest in Android tech news from an enthusiast perspective, and I'm joined here today by folk from XDA and from Reddit.
My name is Anthony. I'm an MA coordinator on the Android subreddit.
I'm Corey Fiak. I'm also from the Android subreddit, and I'm an Android developer.
Daniel from the subreddit and an Android enthusiast.
And TK from XDA TV.
All right, so going into some of the top news that we have this week, pulled from the Android subreddit. One of the things that just hit the airwaves today on Friday, Samsung Pay is looking like it's going to be requiring decrypted storage, which is kind of an interesting concept in order to add a card to its services. Some of the things that people are saying is that it's not hitting every device the same way, but Samsung is confirming that you do have to have a decrypted device. So if you are part of a work profile that requires encryption, you'll have to decrypt, add cards, and then re-encrypt. So it's going to be interesting to see what Samsung Pay does with Marshmallow forcing encryption on new devices. Also this week we had the Priv reviews, also known as the Venice, poor Venice. It looks like it's a fairly good device. Reviews across the board are fairly good, with a few spotty reviews, and they're mainly focusing on the camera. But as far as the hardware goes, it looks like we could be looking at a standout Android hero device, something we haven't seen for a couple of years that really sets Android apart from the standard slabs, screens, and cameras. Also today, Android Police put up a APK teardown of the newest Play Store release. It looks like we're finally going to be getting family sharing. It looks like this may be tied to the Google Play Music family sharing that they had spoken about at I.O., but we should be able to hopefully share applications, but they said that it will definitively for entertainment at least, so that's something that a lot of people like on iOS that should be coming to Android. Finally, two more little topics. We have Shooty Skies is coming to Android. I kind of threw that one in there. I love Shooty Skies on my phone, so definitely check that app out. It's from the same guys who did Crossy Road. And they like to keep their in-app purchases as little as possible. And it's just a fun app to play. And finally, we've got everybody's favorite mid-range device, the Asus Zenfone 2. They just put out a special deluxe edition with a really, really cool back design. But it also ships with 128 gigs of storage. And that one is listed at $399, and it should be coming soon to Amazon and a few other markets as well. So that's some of the news that hit the airwaves this week.
Man, the new Play Store thing, now that you can gift, I was actually talking to a friend about this earlier. She wanted to pinkify her shuttle, but you can only do that if you get the Pro version. And my friend and I wanted to gift it to her so bad, like a couple weeks ago, and looks like we were a couple weeks too late. But the gifting thing is going to be very nice. I've gifted through apps before, but gifting through the Play Store is going to be a huge bonus, especially with the free Google Play credit that I got from the Nexus 6P. So I'm not going to use all that money, so it'd be nice just to gift something.
That was a nice bonus for the pre-orders on the Nexus 6P. All the Nexus pre-orders, definitely.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, especially because the price was a little higher, so all the little extra bonuses you get, I had free shipping, and that kind of brings it down a little bit more to Nexus 5 levels. Really interesting about that Shooty Skies game. The naming convention already tells you how it's going to play, if you ask me, but it's amazing how they always make it so obvious what kind of game it is. You know, it's kind of this, like flappy, shooty, crossy. We get it at this point.
Quit bluffing, Mario. You know you're going to lose hours this weekend to that game.
I'll install it. I'm going to try it because I loved Crossy Road. So, and that other game that they had, it was like a Pac-Man style game or something that they had. Pac-Man 256, yeah.
Yep, and you can actually play as Pac-Man in Crossy Road. I know that because my girlfriend plays it. Not me, my girlfriend. I might have it on my phone. It was for review. I was testing it.
Yeah, they just brought Ida from Monument Valley as well. So they've got a lot of cool little additions and partnerships that they do.
Let them do that.
Celebrities and all that. That's really popular, putting celebrities in these little mini games. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's all about the pop culture references, I guess.
Tie it up. You have to always tie it back.
I wanted to say something about the Priv though. You were mentioning like the reviews or like the hands-ons have been kind of iffy about the camera, like how it's really slow. But I was watching Techno Buffalo's hands-on of it, and they were also mentioning, I think it was John Rettinger, was also mentioning that the device gets hot, which is strange considering it's not running the 810 that got so much crap earlier in the year, but it's running the 808.
Well, I think that the 808 is not completely safe. I do notice that my Nexus 5 X gets a little hotter than I think it should, especially between the fingerprint sensor and the camera. So that's that's typical chipset placement right there. And it does get a little hot when doing games. I noticed that, and I recorded up to 38. I haven't done too many serious measurements yet. That I'm writing the performance part right now, so that comes tomorrow. So not in time, I guess.
So what about the Google Play Music sharing and the App Store share, or the not App Store, but the Google Play Store sharing? Is anybody interested in that? I mean, for me, that's like super exciting, especially for my son, being able to share a lot of the stuff that I own without having to give him access to my account, since I've got his own Gmail account set up. Is anybody else interested in that?
I'm the only one in my family with an Android device, so.
Oh God!
I mean, so
my condolences.
I'm in the same boat with the obviously my son likes to listen to music. He listens to. I have my account logged in on his phone now, but I got in on the Google Play Music back when it was $7.99 from IO. That I feel like to share with him, it's almost like getting another account entirely. It hasn't impacted me yet to be able to say I want to go back and just say no, I want to pay $15 just to get that extra feature. Especially now I get YouTube Red with it, all the extra features for $7.99. We don't cross too much, and luckily my son listens to the similar music that I do, so it kind of works out.
Oh God!
And I create playlists for him, so it hasn't worked out. It hasn't become an issue for me. But if you're at $9.99,
I'm on the $7.99 as well, and I share it with my wife on her iPhone and iPad, and her music tastes way different. So it's almost embarrassing to open Google Music because I never know what's going to be on there. It's like recommending these pop artists and stuff. But the other thing too is because YouTube Red is per account, I don't want to share my YouTube account with my wife because she follows a whole bunch of other, blogs and stuff like vlogs that I don't care about. So I think that's going to be the thing that's going to push me over to get the $15.99 is just going to be able to share YouTube. Right?
Mm-hmm. I think there's definitely a big benefit there, sharing it and using it. And like I said, for me, it's just one. My wife she's not a big person on YouTube. She watches videos, but she doesn't subscribe to anything. So it works out. I think it's a great plan. I think it's a great feature to finally have it from an Android base, and especially with Google Play picking up steam. I mean, it's not something that could be just forgotten about. It's a big competitor. It has a lot of features, and music does come out pretty good. And YouTube Red with it, there's no way any other service out there that's around the same price, Spotify, Apple, can actually come close to competing with that type of benefit package.
I was actually on Spotify for about, I think, like 8-9 months, and I was like, I'm never gonna move because that means I have to transfer everything over, and all the programs I tried to transfer stuff over didn't work. And then I heard about YouTube Red, and even though Spotify got Chromecast, I was like, yeah, okay, buy Spotify.
Yeah, definitely. It's interesting to see where the YouTube is going, or Google is going with YouTube Red and the music and everything. And they're packaging it all up. It's going to be interesting to see, are there going to be further services that they add to it? So definitely something we'll be keeping an eye on. Going into one of our first main topics here for the week, another thing we're keeping an eye on is we're seeing a lot of similarity with different manufacturers out there offering their own insurance programs. So I know we saw that for HTC with the plan, and that was a little while ago, but now we're seeing the Nexus phones coming out, and we've got the Nexus Protect that's offered alongside with those. And I think there's another one too from Xiaomi. Is that correct?
Xiaomi?
Yeah. So we're seeing these popping up from different carriers. Are any of you guys using any of these plans?
Nope.
No, I didn't get it. I didn't get Nexus Protect with my 6P.
Yeah, I didn't either.
Yeah, I wanted to, but unfortunately, because of the pre-orders, once you call back and you're like, I want to add it to the order, they're like, no, you have to cancel and reorder again. There was no way to add it, and so
you probably would have gotten your device faster, TK, based on what I'm seeing on the forums.
I saw some people saying if you order it and order Project Fi with it too, that was speeding up some stuff for some people, but. I think for me, because I went with the 128 gig model, there was a much higher demand on that one because, non-expandable storage, I mod the crap out of my phone. Sorry, I mod a lot. So I back up many times on my device. So especially if I'm running multiple ROMs, 32 gig wasn't cutting it, and I know 64 is just barely making it. So
yeah, see, I was gonna say I got the 64. I don't plan on rooting it, at least right now, and I think I have like 40 something gigabytes left on it, so I don't put that much on it. But I have a friend in the UK who just got his Nexus device yesterday, and I have a friend who bought it through Fi, and he's getting it over the next few days. So I can understand the Fi costing a little bit more of a backup for whatever reason, but that's just my experience with the 6P at least.
So
And
back to go ahead.
No, I was actually going to bring it back to the insurance programs as well. You know, one of the things that stands out to me about these features, you know, Apple wasn't the first to the market with this kind of a program, but the Android manufacturers are really hitting it on a good price point. You know, Apple has increased price, but you can get Nexus Protect for $60 or $70. HTC is always free. I believe the equivalent for what OnePlus is doing in Europe is something like $70 for their plan. So they're really attractive as far as their pricing goes.
I think they realize that they're not necessarily competing with something like Apple Care. They're competing with things like Square Trade, which are very efficient for the price point of what you're paying for. So I think they realize who their competitor really is, and they're pricing it accordingly, which I think is very smart.
And, you know, insurance is another way for them to make money. I mean, bottom line is, you know, if you're selling it to a lot of people, it's got to be profitable for them, I think. So it's interesting that the manufacturers themselves are starting to tap into that. It's something that, you know, we did see Apple doing with that, and not very many manufacturers. We see third parties like Square Trade. We see even, like, I have insurance through T-Mobile. It's part of my Jump program. But now the manufacturers kind of want their cut of the insurance pie here. So I think that's probably part of why they're jumping in as well.
So with T-Mobile, actually, also the other thing a lot of people don't realize is there's two-step protection that you get with them. And when you get a device that's not part of their system, only the replacement for if it breaks, not the warranty, doesn't get extended. So you end up having a much higher out-of-pocket pay for that. That things like $175 or $150 just to replace your device. So they send me, because I change a lot of devices throughout the year, they keep sending me letters saying that your device is not entirely protected under the Jump program. Only this portion is, and please contact us to clear it up. So they're trying to keep it so that you buy the device from them and keep the service with them so that they get the most amount of money out of it. So,
yeah, I was going to say that my Nexus 6 had an issue and I had to send it back, and T-Mobile sent me a new one, and they realized that there was some problem with the port that wasn't covered in the warranty, and I had to pay $175. So yeah, it's accurate that there's still some out-of-pocket pay if you're going through carriers.
Yeah, and another thing too, you know, for people who are interested in looking at these plans versus what you can get through your carrier, something to keep in mind is carriers do offer loss and theft protection for most plans as well. Whereas Square Trade, Nexus Protect, Xiaomi, and all of those, they don't offer any kind of loss and theft protection. So if you are somebody that forgets your phone somewhere, these carrier plans are definitely not something that you should be looking into. It's better to pay the higher deductible and have that coverage.
Definitely.
All right. So the next thing we wanted to talk about, I guess the biggest thing is we have some members of the podcast here who have received the new Nexus devices. There's the 6P that Anthony's holding up, and I think Mario, and we also have TK has one as well. That's 6P. Yeah. So let's start with the 5X and then transition to the 6P. So what do you think of the 5X so far? What are your impressions on that?
Slight disappointment. I love the Nexus 5. I know so many people love the Nexus 5 and still love it and still flash so many ROMs and keep up with the latest and greatest, because that phone was so future-proof, especially for the price. This phone, the camera's great. I really like the camera. I really, really like the camera. The video's great. The camera's good. It's not the fastest, but it's fast enough, and it takes like, I know it tastes like it has some good processing for, first time Google. Fingerprint scanner is great. Processor is okay, but ultimately the package in today's context, to me, and this is just personal because I can't tell people what phone to buy, but to me it does not match the value that you get out of other phones. the Snapdragon 808 in particular, this is the first time I actually get to test one in depth. I've done, like I said, I've only done like the benchmarking parts, and now I'm going to the more real life gaming tests, heat temperature and all that. But so far, it's just not very remarkable. And even running 1080p, which that was what I was hoping to see, is this processor running 1080p when it's known for running 1440p on devices like the LG G4. I was like, oh, maybe it's going to deliver a little bit more than I'm expecting. I mean, after all, it's faster than the Snapdragon 800 in paper. And the Nexus 5 did great, and it does great. It does great on Lollipop and Marshmallow. And, well, I do find lag. I do find stutters and little delays that I don't think should be there, especially because it's a Google phone, to one of the phones that revolutionized the user experience fluidity by being the first phone with KitKat, with all those optimizations, Project Spell, the conclusion of Project Trim, all these things, and it was great. But now it's just not that. I don't know. Maybe it's just that honeymoon phase with the Nexus being top of the game in terms of performance is gone. I do notice performance issues, especially because I use Show Touch developer options, so I can see my input visually, so I can measure visually the amount it takes for the output.
So a question I've got for you regarding the 5X, Nexus devices have always gotten off to rocky starts. I think this is one of the smoothest software starts that Nexus devices have gotten off to. The Nexus 6 had huge I/O problems in the beginning. Do you think this is just issues that will be fixed as they polish up Marshmallow and polish the 808 for Marshmallow, or do you think that this is actually something that is physically a problem with the SoC or the device or somewhere in between?
In a way, I think there's room for optimization. We must not forget the fact that the Nexus 5 saw updates that really fixed many of its performance issues, even like camera performance. The KitKat did have various revisions that made it much better. So I think there's definitely room for improvement. Out of the box, Marshmallow is great. I feel it's very derivative though, and it's what the Lollipop should have been. It's not enough for me to say, wow, this is a whole new user experience. I haven't really found anything on the Nexus 5X that allows me to save more time than I do with any other device in my house. And in fact, since I feel like it's not the fastest device in my house and it's not the longest lasting device in my house, even with those, when it works amazingly. I'm sure we're going to discuss that. It's still not on par with what I expected it to be. At least in the higher end of my expectation, is just about what I expected it to be at the minimum.
What about the camera? Have you had any chance to play around with the camera on the 5X?
Yeah, and the pictures, like I said, the pictures look great. They're sharp, and even without proper image stabilization, I haven't found many issues with blurry pictures. I've taken some good sample shots that are gonna go live in my review next week, and I'm gonna do the UX screen recording of how fast it is, so that people can actually see how fast the camera is, how fast it focuses, the exposure. That is the one thing that I'm very picky about with my phones, and that's how they handle exposure. And I have some sample shots that I can put in the description as well, that show variations of a single shot indoors of the Note 5 laying on a table, and the focus points are a little different, and they completely blow out the picture in terms of exposure. And that's something that I don't quite like. But then again, I was forcing it to try and make it happen. So I'm not sure it's going to happen that severely in regular use.
So the pictures it takes are only half the story, and a lot of people like to focus on, it can take good pictures, but is it consistent in the pictures that it takes? I know you mentioned the exposure issues, but does it have focus hunting problems during videos? How fast does the camera open? Is it a pleasant experience, or are we still looking at the same flawed Nexus camera as far as the software is concerned that we've seen in years past?
No, I think that it's a much better software. It's undeniably better for a Nexus phone, and I know that you guys with the Nexus 6P will agree. I mean, it's pretty much the same camera except for a couple features from the Snapdragon 810. The one thing I'm not happy about is the double tap to open the camera of the power button, the double tap. But that's not because of the double tap, it's because the power button is so mushy and disgusting to use. And I'm pretty much very used to the fingerprint scanner at this point.
Yeah, I was gonna say on the Nexus 6P, I don't have that problem. The button is nice and clicky, and even with the case, because I have the 6P case, the buttons it doesn't have any issue. Like the buttons are still clicky and everything like that.
My only thing with the camera itself is that it doesn't remember the last thing you were doing. You always go back into the same setting.
Absolutely.
So if you, let's say you left it in selfie mode, or if you left it in video, it doesn't go back there. It goes straight back facing camera, and you have to always swipe to kind of go to what you want to do or change the setting. I wish it had that option to remember. Yeah.
Yeah, I hope they fix that in a future update, because that's really annoying.
No, definitely, but it's a big improvement than what we had on the Nexus 6 and some of the other cameras that we've seen, even with all the updates. And I definitely like the 240 frames. That was very, very nice. The optimizations we have on the Nexus 6P are definitely better.
Yeah. TK, I noticed what you said, and I actually noticed that it does it even if you go back to the home screen. Like if you have a selfie mode, you go back to the home screen, you go back to the camera app, and it restarts on the back camera. I think legitimately annoying.
It's set to be that way, which is exactly. Remember just the last, especially if you didn't even clear it out of memory.
Yeah. Yep. And you know that's one of the things that they're those little user experience things that ultimately make it to your everyday in some way or another. Oh well, I have my qualms with Marshmallow, but I don't know. To me, it's just growing pains. You know, it might be fixed in future revisions, hopefully. But I don't want to. You know, when I review a phone, I don't want to say, well, there's this problem, but it can be fixed, because ultimately, what cannot be fixed? There's been phone updates that have done wonders for battery life, done wonders for camera, done wonders for even screen calibration. You know, and so. Ultimately, software can play such a major role that saying, oh, it can be fixed in a future update is like saying, well, of course it can.
Yeah, that's one thing we can't sell Google short on, though. I mean, they have done a pretty respectable job as far as fixing those kind of problems. Like you said, there's no excuse for having little problems like that, you know, with a big launch like they're trying to do with the new Nexus devices. But I have to give them credit. They have fixed, I mean, the I/O problems on the Nexus 6 are pretty much gone. Like you mentioned before, the Nexus 5 has its cameras issues have been improved. So, you know, about the 5X, that's your experience with that one, Mario. Is it any different for you, TK, on the 6P? Are you seeing these micro stutters? Is it a Marshmallow problem or just something with the 5X, or what's your experience?
So with the Nexus 6P, I've had it basically just exactly 24 hours. Overall, super fast, super smooth. Everything is just launching. It's almost like before I even hit the button, it's up, it's running. And I'm surprised because I was expecting, I wasn't expecting it to be that fast. I'm used to the Note 5, similar like Mario. We have a very fast device, and I was expecting it to underperform because the Note 5 is just solid. It's consistent. Picture qualities I've been able to take are very sharp, clear, and jumping between tasks is so smooth. It's ridiculous. It does warm up. That's a little bit. I noticed that just from maybe because I'm just paying too much with it. The sound quality, overall performance, no seeking issue, which we've had in the Nexus 6. And I'm sure, if you've had the Nexus 6, the seeking issue when you're doing videos. But overall, I think it's really nice. The build is very nice. I still have mine. That's, this is my bread and butter. The Nexus 6 is, it's a great device. It's amazing. The sound quality is amazing. Speakerphones on it, the front-facing speakers are just almost night and day to what the Nexus 6 had. And those were good speakers. So to start off, those were good. These are amazing. Music playback, enjoyable. I think overall, a really good package. If there's anything I would worry about right now is realistically with all these, well, I guess maybe we'll cover it later. Yes.
We'll jump on that in a minute.
I'm glad that I was gonna say I'm glad TK brought up performance, because I actually had a couple issues with some apps. So you have standard apps where Snapchat is notably horrible on Android. It actually runs a lot better on the 6P then it ran on the Nexus 6 running Marshmallow. The Nexus 6 running Marshmallow Snapchat was horrible, unusable. I also had issues with Runtastic. I don't know if you ever use that app. It wasn't letting the phone doze, and
it's my favorite running app. Yep.
Yeah, it drained like 19% battery on my 6P overnight. Like it wouldn't let the phone doze, so I don't know what the issue was. But speaking of that, doze works a lot better on the 6P than it did on the 6. The 6 for me never really went into doze mode for whatever reason. The 6P never. I have yet to kill it in a day, and I have yet to charge it overnight. I haven't done that yet. I've had it for like maybe almost a week, and I have yet to charge it. I have yet to charge it overnight, which is a huge plus. So.
No, I think definitely very well optimized for the Nexus 6P. It's built for it.
TK, I have one question about the Nexus 6P. Have you been able to test the storage at all? Because I'm thinking, my qualm with devices without micro SD, being a flashaholic, it's just the storage speed, and I've been like spoiled by the Note 5 storage speed. Just backing up files and whatnot. It's a dream on that phone because it's so fast. Have you been able to try that out and maybe done a benchmark on that?
I have unfortunately not. I received the phone last night. Literally did this morning and did the transfer of the accounts set up. I've had it off the battery since this morning, and it's down to about 73%. So, and I've tried those, and just I can see the where it just stops. Everything stops, and the battery's lasting. So. Yeah. First few days of testing, but just from the performance, even because I'm still using my Note 5, because my Note 5 is my primary device right now, it just, there's no way, it literally makes my Note 5 look like it's slowing down, which is, to me, it's that fast. Well, not in the camera performance, but as far as loading applications.
The camera software still needs some work.
No, definitely. It's just that with the Note 5, we've had an issue that is obviously well documented, is the fact that the Note 5 doesn't manage running apps that well. The ability to just jump between multiple applications and going back to an app that you opened 6 or 7 apps ago, and it doesn't have to reload the entire app, for me is a bump in performance.
FHA
doesn't mean I can't
edit the build prop.
Well, see, that's the thing. We're talking stock. We're talking just exactly as the manufacturer intended. If we're gonna start opening up mods, that's a different game.
Okay, yes, we can compete for a while. The Nexus 5X, I noticed the difference in performance is the opposite experience to me. It makes my Note 5 seem like a world champ. It also, something that's so weird is I've been so used to this phone. I grab my Note 5 and it's massive. And not only is the screen massive, especially because it doesn't have software buttons, but the bezels are, I appreciate the Note 5's bezels so much more than that I'm used to this small device with relatively big bezels. But overall, this phone is really not that snappy. I know what's snappy though. Speaking of snapping, what do you guys think about the Bengate 3.0? How many Bengates have we had lately? I mean, oh god.
Yeah, so for anyone who wasn't following this, and a lot of this transpired over, or a lot of discussion about this transpired over at the subreddit /r/Android. What happened is there's a YouTuber, Jerry Rig Everything, who had a video there where he was doing standard torture tests to his Nexus 6P, doing things such as trying to scratch the front of the screen, scratch the back. He even used a lighter to it, which I haven't seen very many people do that with their phones, and burnt the screen, got a little bit of mark in there. And then to finish it all off, he holds it in his hands and just completely snaps the thing in half. Like I've seen Ben test before. This was on a whole new level.
If you listened closely, you could hear a crunch.
Exactly.
It was that snappy.
But the second video was brutal.
Yeah.
There were people that were saying, well, hey, you were using a lighter. You compromised the structural integrity of the phone by heating up the screen that's right where it cracked. And so they were saying, like, this guy doesn't know what he's doing. He's bogus. It's a ridiculous test to do it right after that. So he goes out and that's like a soap opera. He buys a brand new Nexus 6P and goes, guess what, guys? It does snap, and it is this easy. And on the screen, one full take, he cuts the seal in the box, pulls it out, all matter-of-factly, and proceeds to snap it. Right, about 2 minutes pulling it out of the box with his bare hands, able to snap it. And he pointed out a few design flaws on it. We saw some woodworking joists, like a butterfly
The dove joints at the bottom of the so he basically pointed out that the structure is pretty much there's a flaw in the design, and there's also a weak point that's pretty much close to around the power button, where the casing essentially is not as strong as the rest. Because if you notice a lot in his videos, he doesn't bend it in the middle, which everybody that tried to debunk his video did that. They would go halfway, which is, I think logically that's where we would go. We would go halfway on the screen, and he actually goes slightly off to the left. That's the magic spot.
Yeah.
And one thing to keep in mind, we're definitely not advocating bending your device, and we don't think that this kind of thing will happen in, regular day-to-day usage. But one thing that stood out to me was, like you just mentioned, with those dovetail joints is, that it almost looks like it is not necessarily a manufacturing flaw, but more of a compromise. And in my mind, what it's making me think of is, we see Nexus 6P, and, it is a flagship level device, and it's undercutting the Note 5 and the iPhone 6 Plus, by almost $200. Are they making compromises in the build of these devices to hit that particular price point? What do you guys think about this? Is that something that we should be concerned about when we're seeing devices and the entry costs going lower and lower?
To be honest, if you look at the guy, he's done this a bunch of times. And he's got videos for all sorts of devices. And I'm not just appealing to authority here, but Reddit liked the guys' videos for a while. And now, and to me, if we're speaking strictly about Reddit, it could just be this thing, Reddit loves the Nexus phones. I love the Nexus phones. But, it's okay to be a skeptic, but to initiate a crusade against someone and, trying to not, just call it out outright that it's fake and whatnot, it's pretty clear, and it's not far-fetched either. This is not necessarily a manufacturer that's been renowned for structural integrity, as far as I know, whereas there's some manufacturers that actually are. The Samsung phones, the Note 5, it's glass and metal, and it does not bend nor break. And you can see the guy's video, and it's very resistant. It's one of the most resistant phones. He can't even properly twist it, and Samsung actually doesn't make as much profit per phone as many people think that they would, and because ultimately it's about build quality. It's about that. I wouldn't say it's a design flaw like some people say. It's just a design oversight. Like the thing with the S Pen was a design oversight. It's not that they were designing it to be I don't think that they considered putting it backwards, because otherwise they would have been like, oh well, they would have put a measure against it. They just thought, well, it's not designed to be put the other way around. So
backwards. Yeah.
And back to the question about is a cheap device, can you expect build quality with it? Well, one of the interesting devices I think that is would be nice to mention here would be the Droid Turbo 2. While it is about $120 more expensive than the 6P, it's still significantly less than some of the top flagship phones out there. And that is probably one of the leading phones out there in terms of this. I saw someone throw it down from 10 feet in the air onto concrete, and the screen didn't crack at all.
Yep. I think what's important to know about the Droid Turbo 2 though is, and I think it was the Android Authority review or something, there were a lot of scratches on the screen. So it may be shatterproof, but you drop it enough times and you're still going to have
The thing to keep in mind, though, is it's a plastic screen protector on the Turbo 2, not to go too far away from the 6P. There's and cheap plastic screen protectors, kind of like the one I believe the Sony Xperia Z2 and Z3 might have shipped with them as well, and people were getting marks on them real bad, and then you just pull them off and it's a beautiful screen underneath.
Yeah,
so
that's
but
part of the
you also
problem with
replace
the
it.
Turbo.
They also put you can also replace it on the Droid Turbo 2. And even then, though, the screen is made and materials are flexible. Materials are flexible are actually prone to this. If you look at plastic OLED screens, POLED, I guess that's how, the LG screens, they're actually prone to scratches more so than they are to obviously breaking. So, if you want a phone that bends, you just go get an LG G Flex with a POLED screen. But ultimately, it can be a problem. There was a user also reporting that it bended in his pants. I think it's maybe too early to say that it definitely will ban in those kind of situations. Obviously, there's always those strange cases, but I don't think it should be dismissed outright. And I saw a lot of people dismissing it outright because it's like, well, just don't ban your phone. But, you know,
I think
it's like,
and I was gonna say it's important. Like even in his video, Jerry Rig Everything said, you know, if you just use your phone as a phone and you're careful with it and you don't do anything stupid with it, you should be fine. And I think a lot of people kind of just like tone that out. We're just like, oh no, forget him. He's a heretic, or he's an awful person for bending the phone. Like, you know.
The other thing, a lot of people, when they even put their phones in their back pocket, I don't think a lot of people realize that you never put the phone back facing you. You put the screen facing in. So the structure test that all of these things that we've been doing have always focused on the fact bending it from the bottom up. But the fact is, this is how your pressure is going to be coming on. If you're sitting on it, that's where the pressure is coming on. And the screen no test was done to validate that the screen is strong enough, the structure is strong. And I think you have a lot more strength in the front than you have on the back. And if you have a case on it, it's not even an issue. It's already over at that point.
Yeah. And it shouldn't be dismissed outright.
And I think
it shouldn't be dismissed outright because ultimately it does matter to some people. It does matter to some people. And you know, and I think that if you look at things objectively, you can say, well, it did break in those instances. At this point, denying that that the guy can actually break the phones because he did it twice, and like you guys said, he did it in one shot video. You can't deny it, and to some people it's gonna matter. That's why, you know, I rather look at the situation objectively, because to someone it is gonna matter, and you can't tell them, well, it's not a problem. It's not a problem. Well, it is. To some people it is. So don't go around doing that, because you're basically telling people what to buy and what not to buy, and you're not considering their responsibility and their intelligence as consumers, that they can go and make their own decisions based on the information that you give them. You should give them information. You shouldn't tell them what to buy.
And there are definitely some Nexus fanboys out there that are still saying, like, there's something up here. So I saw a video on Reddit where he said, okay, it's debunked, case closed. I figured out what it was. So you watch the video, and he posts some pictures of the guy that was doing the bend test, and he happened to be a pretty strong guy. And so his claim is, this guy's stronger than the average individual. That's why these phones are bending. So
yeah, I know. I was like, really? That's your debunking? And then I don't know.
Yeah, and I think, like Mario said it very well. It all comes down to if you try to break the phone, it's going to break. You know, I mean, it doesn't have the structural rigidity that we've seen in devices like the Note 5 or maybe the LG V10 with its, steel frame and things. But I think for most people, it shouldn't really be something that concerns you. And if it does concern you, get a case. You know, I mean, the 6P is slippery. A lot of people are posting on the subreddit that they're breaking them and shattering top visor glass or camera glass. So, if you're scared, get a case. It'll add enough structural rigidity for you.
Actually, or even get a D-brand skin or some type of slip cracks. That'll fix the slippery part right away.
Yeah.
Another thing as well, I mean, we were just talking earlier about the insurance plans. You have Nexus Protect, and that'll protect you from that kind of a fall, exactly. Or that kind of a breakage, as long as you can still ship it in and don't lose it. But
exactly.
Just make sure you get it right at the time you order. Yep.
Yeah, because you can't get it any other time.
And, the other thing, the final subject that we wanted to talk about here today was some news that broke out, I think it was earlier today, that Google is looking into designing its own smartphone chips. A lot of people are kind of shooting from different angles here. Is Google going after Apple? Are they trying to do the same Apple's doing and streamline their processes? But Ron Amardio on Ars Technica had a really great write-up that did regarding this, discussion that's going on, speaking that Google is actually looking more towards it from an AR and Project Tango point of view. This could definitely end up changing, what we see in Nexus devices in the future. Are they going to be more developer-oriented devices like Project Tango, or are they going to just be more streamlined as Google takes, a seemingly more of a stranglehold over Android? We saw some people saying that they're looking into building their own hardware now as well. What do you guys think about this? DK in particular, do you think that this is something that's good for Android? Do you think it's good for the general consumer, or is it something that's going to be developer only, like kind of Project Tango is at the time?
I was going to say, given the Pixel C that's coming out later this year, running Android Marshmallow, Pixel phones. That's the first thing I thought of when I heard this. So if for people that don't that don't know much about Google's other products on Android, they make Chromebook Pixels, which run Chrome OS, and they're designed in-house. So it's kind of like the Apple approach, where they design it in-house and everything, and then they get someone else to manufacture, kind of like how Apple does with Foxconn with the iPhones. And the Pixel C is the next example of that, but it's running Android instead of Chrome OS. So a lot of people are thinking, does this mean we're going to see more Pixel products on Android? Pixel phones, and that's what I thought of when I heard about this. I was like, okay, we might see a Pixel phone. So interesting.
Well, I think that people everyone seems to want to grab this issue and this news and look at it from the vertical integration perspective, that Apple popularized with hardware and software, with their hardware and their software. I think that Daniel could be precisely right. I think that there's probably a more developer and future project oriented story here. The chips that they have right now, they're good, and like the Pixel C, it's going to come with the X1 NVIDIA X1 processor, which is an absolute beast. I mean, it was in that NVIDIA Shield TV, and it was a beastly. It still outscores so many processors like 7420, and it'll probably outscore the many of the next generation of processors. But I think it has to do more with Project Tango. I think that they're pushing stuff like that. I think that they're pushing for those kind of things, and because we're thinking of something that they're investing now, but yeah, we haven't really heard much about it. If it happens, we probably wouldn't see results for a while.
At least, maybe not till the end of next year, if we even hear anything about any kind of development. And you're right, it's early, because all it is, it's a posting for a job, and it's the future, and that's those are the little things you're able to basically see the future in. So it's exciting. Exciting, and definitely if a Pixel C phone comes around.
Yeah, one other thing, one thing I was thinking about as well is it just came to mind when Mario was talking. I think all the Project Tango devices so far and the Pixel C are all NVIDIA based devices. Am I right?
Yep.
Yeah, and
we know that
NVIDIA. NVIDIA is struggling with their chipset division as far as mobile devices. They've recently pretty much dropped anything that doesn't have an LTE radio in it. So maybe we might see something along the lines of picking up where NVIDIA is at right now, and Google kind of taking over that Project Tango, and then kind of seeing other implementations of it as well. That's purely speculation, though.
Google purchasing NVIDIA's chip division.
that would be brilliant. Yes, especially
Samsung
because
Samsung get pissed off and make them sell it.
Yeah, I mean,
kind of like what happened with Motorola.
NVIDIA and their GPUs are well known. That alone, the brand, imagine Project Tango powered by NVIDIA, and they're known for the GPUs, and what Project Tango does needs good GPUs. I think that you hit something really interesting there. And, if it's not the case, I hope that Google's watching this podcast. I doubt it, but yeah.
If you're watching this,
yes.
Mr.
Lockheimer. But either way, I think it's definitely good for Android. I think we've seen recently the other news that broke out this week was that Android One is kind of struggling right now. Google is releasing a stranglehold on Android One and kind of losing the point of where it was focused at in the beginning. So if we do see Google maybe taking hardware and doing their own hardware and taking SoCs and building their own internals, maybe we might see Google finally steering the Android ship, and some of the other OEMs will kind of fall behind. So I definitely think that there's some exciting times ahead for Android from my viewpoint.
Yeah, I mean, if you're someone who kind of has loved Android and wanted to continue using Android, but looking at Apple and seeing how efficiently Apple does things with their vertical integration, this is only going up for Android. And a lot of people say, oh, well, that'll piss off the OEMs. Well, their only recourse then is to create their own OSs and do their own thing. Do you really think someone like HTC is going to be able to do that?
Yeah, exactly. You never know with HTC. It's something we're definitely gonna have to keep our eye on, and just Google in general. They're a very large company. They've got a lot of resources, and it's interesting to see what they've got in the pipeline. So we'll be sure
to see what Alphabet has in mind as well.
Yeah, exactly. There's a lot of possibilities here, so it'll be really exciting to keep an eye on that. I think that's going to wrap it up for this week. We had a lot of discussion, very good discussion today. We talked about some news, some small things that we saw, also some trends we're seeing out there, different insurance programs of companies such as the Nexus Protect. We've got the Nexus thoughts. So we spent a lot of time talking about impressions off of the 6P and 5X and what we liked about that. There's some surprises, things we didn't like. And then we had such as the bending of the phone, right? And then finishing it off with that discussion on Google. So really a lot of interesting topics this week. I want to thank you guys for listening. I'm Corey Fiok. You can find me on Twitter at CodismStev.
Again, my name's Anthony. You can find me on Reddit and on Twitter at my handle, AnthonyVRDiz.
Daniel Marchena. You can find me pretty much everywhere at Ultimax98, and I'm also on YouTube at Daniel Marchena.
And as usual, TK, you'll find me on XDA TV or on TKDSL8655 on YouTube and Twitter.
And Mario Surfero, you can find me at XDA. I publish articles every once in a while. And if not, I'm just editing behind the scenes. You can also find me on Twitter. You can find me on Reddit. My handle is Takyungan on all of them. So see you next time.